Listen up. We are back with another episode of the Construction Mentor Podcast. My name is Ike. I am your host. What are we here to do? We're here to promote the construction industry. We want to make sure all of the young people out there, and even people in careers that they're not happy with, they understand that the construction industry is the best and most viable path to a life of affluency. Whatever that looks like for you, whether that's freedom in the style of work that you have, working with your hands, working with your body, ultimately making enough money so that you can live the lifestyle that you want. Whether that's average, above average, or if you want to become your own entrepreneur and you really want to blow the lid off the thing, the construction industry is the industry for you. If you're already in the industry, we want to provide the mentorship and the tools for you to take your career to the next level. So typically we have a guest on the show and they share their life story, trials, tribulations, things that they came over to find success in construction. Sometimes they're in the trade, sometimes they're entrepreneurs. Oftentimes they've gone through things like addiction and homelessness and all these things. And then sometimes I like to get on here and I just like to one-on-one give my perspective on something that I think is important for anybody coming in. And what I want to talk about right now is the perception of Gen Z and Gen A. And what I'm not going to do is dump on them or feed into the popular narrative that they're lazy or that they just don't get it or that they're a different breed or whatever that is, right? Or they want to work from home and they're lazy and they don't want to do anything, whatever that may be, right? Because I think that's very common. And I think that we're too quick to judge them. The older generations are, being millennials, gen-Xers, and baby boomers, and there's a reason why. The main reason being, number one, they see the world through a different lens that we didn't have. They have a lot of devices. They have a lot of tools. There's a lot of media out there. There's a lot going on that just wasn't happening at that time. We live different lifestyles than we did when we were growing up and when we came into the industry. And the notion that they should see the world the same way through the same lens that we saw it through is just unrealistic and unfair. What we should be doing is educating them on the positives that did come from the way that we came up and what they may be missing and how to get it or how to leverage that experience from us. And if you are in Gen Z or you are in Gen A, what are you missing? And one of the things that you're missing is definitely the ability to be social and to create the perception that you're somebody worth mentoring that also sees the world through a different lens than you are seeing with the way that you came up in recent years. And ultimately, there's two major narratives out there or aspects of life that I don't want you to miss out on, aspects of your career that I don't want you to miss out on, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay? So the first, I'm going to relate this to the trades. I'm also going to relate this to a career in construction management. And both of those can be intertwined, and we all know that, and that's a different topic for a different time. But I was at a conference recently, and the purpose of this conference was to pair up young people, maybe entry level to a couple years in, with executives and give them some training to elevate them in their career, right? Whatever that training was, whether it was, trade knowledge or project knowledge or management knowledge, estimating knowledge, as well as some professional delivery knowledge, how to communicate, how to handle certain situations that would be contentious or kind of difficult, which can be awkward to manage as a young person. That's not really the point. The point of the conference, was again to get young people with older people and give them exposure. And that's really important, especially in the construction industry. When you have young people that come in and they're on site, right? They're on a job site. They kind of feel like they're on an island, and rightfully so. They don't really get exposure to people from the office. They get exposure to the executives when they come by, and sometimes they only come by when something's wrong, right? And they don't really get a pulse of how they're being perceived in the company, right? Are they getting the right look? Does people even know that they're there, good at their job, that they're working hard? So it's a good opportunity anytime you can to get in either a conference or a work function or a networking event or a baseball game or whatever that may be, to build a rapport with some of the executives and learn from them. And I get to the conference, and on day one, breakfast is 7 to 8. And I notice that I get there at 7 and nobody's there. A couple executives are there. It's just people my age that are older that are there. And nobody, again, the demographic was pretty much like 22 to 27-year-olds. And 7:20, nobody's there. 7:30, maybe 5 showed up, 5 to 10. By 7:45, out of 70 people, 60 of them showed up between 7:55 and 8:05. Now, I don't really care that anybody skipped breakfast, and I think the way that it's perceived by the older generation, by the other executives there, is that they are a different breed, that they don't care, that they have a different approach, and they don't have a work ethic. And this is just another reflection of that. Although this isn't like showing up and eating breakfast isn't necessarily a reflection of work ethic. It's just kind of a, I hate the word microcosm, but like a microcosm or an indicator of, their work ethic. What I can tell you is that it was noted who was in the room. Even when we went to other activities and networking events at night and other things, the people that were in the room, the younger people that showed up to breakfast early and showed up to interact and kind of introduce themselves and get to know some of the other executives and elder statesmen and women in the room, were people that I ended up remembering. And that's what I want you to take away from it. So whether being there for breakfast is right or wrong, or whether you should or shouldn't have to go through a rite of passage, what you do want to do is you want to create the perception as a young person to an older person that you are worth mentoring, that you are worth their time, and that there's somebody that they want to invest in and pull on their projects and pull close to them, because when they do that, that's what's going to elevate you in your career. And it's not about sucking up to somebody or showing somebody respect that they don't deserve or anything like that. An important concept that I preach a lot and that you want to make sure that you understand and that you're leveraging when you come into an industry, whether you walked in on day one or you're there for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, or 5 years, or even 10 years, you only have so much experience. If you have zero experience, you're not going to be that good. That's the best education. I don't care what college degree you have. Experience on the job, no matter what industry you're in, is going to be the best education. And the way that you get that experience quickly is by leveraging other people's experience. That's the good thing about being at these companies and getting exposure to executives and people that have risen the ranks and been through war after war, project after project, is you get to leverage their experience. And if you do that the right way and you do that to the maximum capacity, you're going to make your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year career better than that person had who's now been doing it for 30 or 40 years. You're going to be better than they were at their 5th year. That's the intent. That's what you want to do. It's not about sucking up. It's not about a rite of passage. It's about getting close to somebody. So number one, you're seen and acknowledged for the work that you're doing. And number two, so you can leverage their experience to rise up that career curve. It's like an exponential curve. You want to get up on that curve as quickly as possible and ahead of everybody else around you. You're only going to do that, though, if you do create the right perception. So again, I remember the people that were in the room at that time, right? So that's an indicator. They're telling me that they do have respect for my time and that they do value my time and the other people around me, and that they do want to be there and learn from me and get to know me and develop a relationship. And I want to do that as well. I'm there for a reason, and that's what you have to understand. I'm not saying you got to suck up to anybody, but you got to realize that when executives put themselves in those situations, or what I'll call elder statesmen, maybe they're not an executive, maybe they're a senior project manager or just a foreman that's been around for a long time. They don't have to be there. They could be with their families. They could be facing clients. They could be getting their own work done. They could be hitting whatever goals and quotas they have to do in their own job. They're taking time away from their own career aspirations, from their own family aspirations, and maybe just even the ability to sit down and do nothing and to relax, to be with you for the benefit of you. So yes, get up and get there and be present and present well. Now, what I will say, and I did notice it, is that when we were at other events, some people pulled back. They didn't want to participate in the activities. Maybe they thought they were stupid. There were other times where we were out to dinner or happy hours, or we went to, a game, and most of the younger people, first of all, didn't want to go to the game. I mean, it was a free NHL game with all you can drink, beer and wine, and all you can eat. And some younger people actually had to be convinced to go. And then when they were there, they were staring at their phones, or they weren't really interacting with anybody, and they didn't look like they wanted to be there. Now, again, the intent is to put you in a situation where you can develop those relationships to advance your career. And you have to acknowledge that. And if you miss out on it, you're only hurting yourself. But here's the kicker. If you are that young if you're Gen Z or Gen A, and you do go and you do show up on time and you go out of your way to interact with people and develop a rapport with people and gain interest in what their life is like and their story to get to their spot in their career, and you try to leverage their experience, since nobody else is doing it, what's going to happen? You're going to advance your own career higher and faster than everybody else around you. Why wouldn't you want to capitalize on that opportunity? Capitalize on that opportunity. Do not miss out on it. Do not miss out on it. I am telling you right now, the bar is so low already with performance. If you can then take advantage of and leverage all this experience that there's like a resource of energy that nobody else is tapping into, you're going to blow everybody away. This is like being the first monkey with a tool or the first person with ChatGPT. That's what this is the equivalent to. So make sure you're leveraging it. And, the second story that I'll tell is about the other incentive. It's not just about your career. It's also about what this can do for you personally and socially, and how that can fulfill you as a human being and an individual and make your life better as a whole outside of work. So a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go out to lunch with my father and a former coworker of his. My father was a 40-year pipe fitter in Boston, and then his friend, and he was a supervisor, and which basically means he ran all the manpower and told which job sites to go to and what to do and what the game plan was. It's kind of like the coach calling the plays on the sideline, right? And then the project manager / account executive, was somebody that he worked with for 30 years, somebody I knew since I was probably 5 years old. And they asked me to go out to lunch, and it was funny because it was that classic conversation between two older guys in their 60s, and they're talking about, oh, what's so-and-so doing? Remember this job? Remember that guy? Remember the time so-and-so did this? And it was just a funny conversation, and it was really good to, number one, to catch up. Number two, to be an adult in that conversation that I used to be, at the kids' table for. But it was also really cool to see my dad, happy and interacting with an old friend of his. And when my dad went up to get to the bathroom at one point, my dad's friend looked at me, and it's probably one of the more proud moments that I've had in my life when I think about my father. And I love my father, and I have always put him high on a pedestal, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. But my father's friend looked at me when my dad was in the bathroom, and he said, Ryan, what's funny? My wife never understood why I love going to work so much in construction, and she just never understood that I was going to work with my best friends. I got to go hang out with everybody that I loved and wanted to be around every day. Yeah, I love my family, obviously, and that's who I go home to. But I got to hang out with my best friends every day, and we got to work together, and we got to do things together, and we were laughing our ass off at coffee, and then we go out to lunch together, and it was, our face would hurt. We were laughing so hard. And then you go out, sometimes you go for beers after work, and it's even more fun. And then you go to Red Sox games or Patriots games, and we have tailgating stories. And it's funny because those were the stories that they talked about the most. It was things that happen with work people, but outside of work, right? And what's interesting about the construction industry that I don't think other industries can offer you is that because you're invested in something, and there's so much blood, sweat, and tears invested in something, and you're literally almost going to war with people. I would equate this to like being on a sports team, specifically like a football team. Like when you're sweating and bleeding with people around you, and you have that camaraderie of that teamwork, those are the relationships that you value and that you covet for the rest of your life. And I got to tell you, like, as stressful as the industry is, my favorite people that I've ever met in my life, and the people that I consider closest to me, I either met them in sports when I was a kid, or I met them on a job site, which is crazy to think of. And it's funny, my wife didn't understand originally why I loved hanging out with the people that I work with so much, and she gets it now because now she's hung out with those people. But it's a notion and a perception of the industry that has gotten lost, and I don't think that people understand it. I live in Florida now. I love going to see the old people that I used to work with in Boston, and I love going to see people that I work with in New York, and I haven't worked with them in 10 years. I love seeing people that I used to work with in Florida or in other states. And the second thing that he said to me, and this is what kind of got me choked up, was he said, Ryan, you don't meet too many people in your life that you could call at 2 a.m. and not only would they pick up the phone, but while they picked up the phone, they're already out of bed and they're already putting their shoes on to come help you. Your father has always been that person. He's the first person that I would always come to mind that I would call in the middle of the night that I needed him. And I was just thinking, like, I don't know of another industry or another group of people that I've ever come across in my life where I've met more people that fit that description. And what an endorsement. I can't think of a higher compliment or endorsement that you could give somebody. Ultimate sign of respect going two ways. That if in your moment of need in the middle of the night, which is probably your most desperate time and urgent time to be calling somebody, that you can count on somebody that not only would they pick up the phone, but that they'd come running to your aid. And I think about, even in my young career, these guys are in their 60s, and in my young career, I have people that I've haven't worked with in 5 years, that if I called them and I was like, hey man, coming home right now, I need you to pick me up at the airport, no problem. They'd move mountains for me. Or if I had an issue, in the middle of the night, I've been traveling for work before, and my AC's gone out in the middle of the night with a pregnant wife and a 1-year-old in my house, and it's 90 degrees in my house in Florida. And I have friends that I know in the construction industry that will go over my house in the middle of the night, fix it, get things back online so that my family can be in comfort in the middle of the night. And part of that is the relationship and the camaraderie and the close friendship, and part of it is knowing competent people that know how to do things, like people in the trades that know how to fix things, right? But when you think about your life and you think about bringing meaning to it, and that it's not all about your career and the money that you make, it's about the time that you spend with other people and the impact that you have on their lives and the impact that those people have on your life and the joy and the fulfillment that brings, I am confident that the construction industry has more of those people that fit that mold than any other industry. I'd die on that hill, 100%. And if you're not out there, instead of texting, calling, instead of sending an email, go walk a job, instead of never spending time with somebody, go out to coffee with them, go to lunch with them, go for beers after work with them, go to a Red Sox game or a baseball game or a football game in the fall. If you're not doing those things, you are missing out on some of the best relationships that you could possibly have in your life at a time where social interaction is nosediving. And I think we're all a little more depressed and anxious because of it. People talk about the construction industry like it's all 100% bad, like it's all stress and no fun and no reward. And I couldn't disagree more. Yeah, there's stress and there's hard times. And sometimes you feel like you're in the trenches, you're in war on a job site. But even in those times where I've been so stressed, I've never laughed harder in my life than I have with, the guys in the field or the guys in the job trailer or the women in the job trailer that are, trying to figure out how to manage a project and trying to figure out how to get it back on track. Or when something funny happens on a job site, or you pull a prank on somebody, or you all go out for lunch together. And maybe you're a little ahead of the project, or maybe you don't go back to work that day, and you end up having a few drinks with each other, and then and you're laughing and you're creating memories that you joke about, and you have inside jokes that you're now teasing each other about, for the rest of the project. Like, that's what made me fall in love with this industry. It's not the compensation, it's not the opportunity. Those things are great, and I'll die on that hill that this industry is better than any other industry for that. It's the relationships, it's the laughs. It's the having somebody at 2 a.m. to call. And for me now, in multiple cities in multiple parts of the country, where somebody will be there for you. And that's a two-way street. Like, if they call me, I want to be there for them if I possibly can. I don't think that there's a better currency or form of wealth that you can cultivate in your life than to have those relationships. So, number one, if you're young, be somebody worth mentoring, be somebody worth giving you the experience, giving you the time to elevate your career to the next level, to get you to the next promotion, the next raise, the next bonus. And if you're managing Gen Z, B, or Gen A, understand that they see the world through a different lens. If you are Gen A or Gen Z, understand that we have a different lens too. But understand that they're growing up with different tools. They have different capabilities, in a lot of cases, better capabilities. They see the world a different way, but educate them about the opportunity that they may be missing out on by not stretching their legs socially. And number 2, don't miss out on the opportunity to meet some of the best people you could ever meet in your life, because that's what's going to make the difference, and that's what's going to make you feel fulfilled. And again, I stand by it. I confidently say that the construction industry has more people like that than any other industry out there. So I'm not going to ramble on. I'm going to cap that at 20 minutes. I do want to tell you that we have some new tools that have come out. First of all, there's always the student ROI calculator on constructionmentor.org. Go compare different tuitions versus starting salaries in the construction industry versus outside the construction industry. Go take a look at what student loans will cost you versus a education in the trades at trade school. If you want to get an education or you want to get a career in construction management, but you don't want to pay a tuition, there is a course now that I launched, a 40-hour construction project management course. It goes through everything from leadership skills to industry layout, who's who, what's what, contracts, RFIs, safety, how to coordinate 15 different trade types. All of it is in there. Plus, you get free mentorship from me and free interview prep from me and help to find a job. And I will give you the energy that you give me. So go check that out. That link is on any platform that you find me on. The link is always in the bio, or you can go find that link at constructionmentor.org. If you're interested in the course, but you're not sure you want to do it, and maybe you just want some advice, whether that be in a job that you're thinking about or you need help in your project, you want to leverage my experience, go book a time with me on constructionmentor.org. I want to make myself available to as many people as possible. And of course, you can always catch this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And last but not least, you can always DM me on Instagram or TikTok. I try to get back to everybody within a week, doing the best that I can. But again, I want to make myself available to you. So I appreciate you for listening. I love everybody. And again, the construction industry, it's the way to go, and that's why we're here. So I'll see you next time.